I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk, where we ain't scared. My name is A1, and let me say today we have a very, very good podcast topic as usual, something that I have been excitedly waiting to be able to discuss. But before we get into that, if you have not subscribed to this incredible podcast, please do that right now. That button in front of you that says subscribe, just tap it. Real simple, real easy. Subscribe, like, share. And thank you to everyone that does support this particular podcast. We Ain't Scared. Appreciate that. And get your mug. Get your We Ain't Scared Talk mug. Looking at one right now. Sexy. And it'll do so much for your confidence or your coffee's self-confidence. All right? Okay, so let's go ahead. Oh, let me just say this. Netflix, this is something that has really started taking on some energy, some good energy. Get over and watch Sticks and Stones with Dave Chappelle, and then also watch Chelsea Handler's Hello, White Privilege. I watched the both of those, and I felt like this is really a watershed moment for comedians in particular, because isn't it sad that you have comedians like Dave Chappelle pushing the envelope on discussions of race, the LGBTQP community, and then you have a white ally in Chelsea Handler, which we need more of, who's also pushing that envelope. To be honest, to me, they just need to make comedians politicians, because it's a joke anyway, right? All right, so I don't want to digress. So let's go ahead and jump into today's podcast. So today's topic is a little bit of something from the R. Kelly situation, the surviving R. Kelly, and juxtaposing that next to the Harvey Weinstein situation. So as I wrote, the double standard. Well, let me just tell you what the title is. Did the untouchable Harvey Weinstein documentary create the same anger as Surviving R. Kelly? Did the untouchable Harvey Weinstein documentary create the same anger as Surviving R. Kelly? All right, so as I was saying, the double standard of white male Hollywood executives that are accused of sexual assault or harassment, but somehow have miraculously not seen the inside of a jail cell. And if they did, Jeffrey Epstein, they magically hung themselves, even though they were under suicide watch. And the reason why I'm snickering is because maybe that was the problem. Maybe the cops thought suicide watch meant to literally watch the inmate commit suicide. I mean, it's so insane to me. You have someone of this high profile, and you can't make sure that they don't hang themselves or kill themselves under suicide watch. All right, let me move forward. So let's jump into the doc a little bit. And I'm telling you, I watched it and I was cringing and I was upset. And I was like, are you kidding me? So this is what happened. Oh, by the way, it's on Hulu. Okay, again, it's called Untouchable. So Harvey Weinstein, while he did not create sexual harassment or sexual assault, he certainly perfected it, as per the 80 or so women that allege he assaulted and harassed them. And I might add, Harvey paid a $44 million settlement in New York to his female accusers. And as usual, my question is always, where are the Me Too females? Where you at while all this is going on? It seems that they were very vocal about their disdain for R. Kelly and Bill Cosby. But if it's a white male, they suddenly get laryngitis, amnesia, and a bad case of their keyboards suddenly not working. Funny how that happens, right? So, I saw Surviving R. Kelly, of course. I saw Untouchable. And let's just say there was a stark difference in tone. But before I get too much further or into the Untouchable, let me first say that there was also a difference in how both the documentaries were aired. American TV Network, Lifetime TV, produced and aired the R. Kelly documentary, while the Untouchable documentary, it was produced by a British production company, and it was aired on Hulu, a paid subscriber service similar to Amazon Prime and Netflix. So to me, it seemed as if, one, no American media company would touch it, and no American producers would touch it. So they did it, but then they buried it, or they positioned it away from the more accessible TV viewing audience. And I'm not saying that Hulu's not a reputable streaming company. I'm just saying most people are still coming into the knowledge of where these various streaming companies are and what they're about. Now, while again, coupled with the fact that no American TV producer or production company touched it, I made that comment because I found it odd. With all the American media, not a single American company, it had to go overseas to England, to come back to the U.S. Very strange. So this sends the message to me that the American media is still afraid. They're still scared of the power that Harvey Weinstein may still hold or wield, which is sick. It's a sickening double standard, since this is an obvious sexual predator, at least in my opinion. But he's still being treated like he has all of his former media powers. And why? Well, I think we all know why. In short, he's a white male. I mean, honestly, I can't think of any other reason. Maybe you can. Let me know. Send it to me. But I can't think of any other reason. And sometimes the obvious answer is the answer. So let's talk about how the documentary portrayed Harvey. When I watched the documentary, it felt more like a historical account of his incredible rise to power against the odds, sprinkled, of course, with some minor inconvenient bouts or instances of sexual indiscretions. It was like he was throwing parties and people occasionally had their butts inadvertently grabbed, by their guests. Or if it was Donald Trump there, they had their pussies grabbed by their guests. Oh, it's an accident. No, come on, don't get so worked up about that. It happens to everybody. Psh, come on, we got a movie to make. Yeah, okay. And then, of course, the females weren't happy, understandably so. But it was an interesting observation, because the females that were accusing him of sexual assault or unwanted sexual advances, they were very reserved. And when I say reserved, I mean reserved in their tone. And even in their description of how he allegedly coerced them into certain sexual activities. I could tell by their body language that they were still thinking more about him and what he could still do, instead of about truly trying to tear this man down for the horrible things that he made them allegedly do against their will. Now, I struggle with the fact that most of these women knew Harvey prior to even initiating contact with him. They knew how he interacted with actresses. It was an open secret. Yet they still voluntarily went to his hotel suite alone at night to close the deal for their acting pursuits. In my opinion, it had hints of Bill Cosby, where you have these women that claim, okay, they went to his hotel suite alone where he allegedly drugged them. And then they got upset years later because what? Bill didn't keep his word and help with their career. Now, I'm not condoning Weinstein's behavior before you start going down that path. But I'm also not completely exonerating the females, okay? Because if there was even a 1% chance that they were thinking about their career advancements ahead of their personal safety, then don't they bear some ownership in the situation? If they went in thinking, I've got to do this for my career, and jeopardized their personal safety, don't they bear some ownership? Okay? That to me is the part that nobody wants to talk about. But that to me is where the real story is. But nobody will push it. Yeah, Harvey Weinstein's an animal, for sure. But the conversation I want to have, just like my position about the R. Kelly, as I've started and stated, what responsibility do the females have in this situation? Okay? But, there's no public outrage. I think this documentary dropped. There was no major media coverage. There was no major tell-alls. To me, when you watch it, it was very high gloss. It was slick. And it looked like a Hollywood movie premiere where the star of the movie was Harvey Weinstein. He was seen waving to the cameras in a friendly manner. The photos looked very Hollywood-esque. There was no screaming by the females, his alleged victims. There was no yelling, about him. It didn't look tabloidish like the R. Kelly documentary or circusy, like the R. Kelly situation. They didn't really even say he forced sex or even use the word rape. And I found that very telling, very odd that these women didn't use the word rape. They were very careful to say, well, before I knew it, he was on top of me. Okay. He was inside of me. Like it was this romantic getaway, like a Harlequin romance style description. Like you're riding down the street, you're riding a horse and Fabio's hair is flowing in the wind. I can't believe it's not butter. And then he has this female on the back of his horse and they ride off into the wilderness together and they get off the horse and they have mad, passionate, romantic love and he's inside of her. That's what it sounded like. It was crazy to me, but these women were very careful not to say rape. Why? I mean, if Weinstein's advances were so unwanted, why not call it what it is? The documentary, in my opinion, was more complimentary, or at the very least, non-accusatory in tone. It was very innocuous, and it took time, in my opinion, to handle Weinstein with kid gloves. Dare I say sympathy? Dare I say sympathy? His former employees seemed still very afraid of him, as I said earlier, which is still very surprising since they all admit the man deserved what he got. And he was banished to the nether regions. Now, one person in particular that was sickening to me was Weinstein's former male CFO. He referred a female friend to come work for Harvey. And the female friend, as we can probably surmise or suspect, she complained that Harvey assaulted her. And she quit. And when the male CFO found out what Harvey did, what did he do? Nothing. He kept working for Harvey and made millions of dollars for himself. And then in the interview, he had nerve enough to say, in a sympathetic, seemingly sympathetic tone, I just found it hard to reconcile the decision to stay after what I found out that happened to my friend. What are you talking about? You stayed because you wanted to keep making money. But he wanted, I was struggling so much with this. Get out of here. Hollywood's casting couch has and will always be a part of the process of grooming young men and women. Does absolute power corrupt? Absolutely. And when it comes to who can use absolute power with no real consequence, yet again, it appears that white males can grab women by the pussy, sexually assault and rape with impunity, and receive no backlash. But let it be a black man accused of the same thing, and he's considered out of control, and he must be arrested by the feds and given 15 minutes of phone time per week and put in solitary confinement, a la R. Kelly, or given 7 to 10, a la Bill Cosby. Weinstein terrorized women for decades, and there is no consequence because he's still roaming free and doing business. The white male double standard is real, and again, it has to be stopped. I'd like to say that one day, I really do want to believe that this will change, but I'm not so optimistic about it. Honestly, I'm very pessimistic. Just based on where we are. Now, the females have got to change their attitude as well. And the reason why I'm stressing this is because, understand, 45 was voted into office by females, even after these sexual revelations of harassment were revealed. And there's something, I'm kind of going off script here a little bit, but I'm also starting to get the feeling that even though it is a white man being accused of sexual assault by a white female, that the white community is also very tribal. And there is a resistance to condemn somebody that looks like you based on the power structure. So again, this is a lot of me, supposition, and I'm just sort of freestyling that. But I honestly, at the core, I think there's some of that going on. Because for a female to have been traumatized by this sexual assault, I don't understand why they are afraid of this man and why they refuse to publicly call rape what it is. I don't know. Maybe Weinstein's got some other shadowy supporters, still high-powered people in his corner that he can still pick up the phone and make phone calls for. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's some underground network. But my hope is that this documentary will cause people to take a second look and then honestly just come to terms with the fact that assault is assault, no matter who it is, no matter what their ethnic or racial background is. So, all right, well, look, those are my thoughts. And again, that documentary is on Hulu. Go check it out. It's called Untouchable. And ironically, I think it really is, the documentary pretty much sums it up. So, check it out. Let's keep the conversation going. I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk. My name is A1, and you got some good food for thought. Listen again. Tell a friend. We ain't scared.